Hey everybody, it's Travis, Pagan Scholar. This is an episode of the ABCs of Contemporary Paganism. Today we are going to be discussing actually a couple of different concepts. I'm going to be lumping together some of the letters. In fact, you're getting a triple threat today because I can't talk about one thing without talking about all of the other things in this trio. So basically today we're going to be talking about crisis for C, and we'll bring up the other letters as they come along. So why did I go with crisis for the ABCs of paganism? I'm just going to posit something that I probably could look up in Helen Berger's Pagan Census, but I didn't. And what I'm going to say is that contemporary pagans, we're going to be migrating from a different religion. We are going to be converts to contemporary paganism. And as a good number of us live in the West, I'm going to say that a large number of us came from Christianity. I do understand that there is an emerging demographic of contemporary pagans who have been born into this spiritual practice, or people who have had the good luck to have arrived at this place without any sort of break or crisis in their original faith. However, I am going to say that a good number of us were raised in a Christian mentality paradigm, or at least that's where we were coming from, and there was something in our lives that happened that we could not explain away with Christianity. Because of that, we left Christianity. We found a spirituality, we found a perspective that offered something beyond Christianity, that offered an alternative, and we found it palatable, and thus you are watching this video about the ABCs of contemporary paganism. As a side note, I do want to say that demographically speaking, that is the reason why there are not very many straight men in contemporary paganism, because in Christianity, if you have a crisis of faith and you are a straight man, a straight cis white man, you know, the full privilege package, basically if you have that crisis of faith and you leave it, Christianity, you are leaving behind a lot of privilege, because Christianity is a patriarchal religion. It favors men, it favors like the masculine authority in the household. And so by leaving Christianity, you give up a lot of authority in your spirituality, which is why so many women identifying and not straight identifying people are within the community of contemporary paganism. We have this exodus from Christianity into contemporary paganism because of a crisis. So I am going to label these different kinds of crises as a critical crisis or as a reactionary crisis. So a critical crisis would be something like, you suddenly realize something is not met by your spirituality, it's not going to work anymore. That could be, at least in my case, whenever I realized that I was gay and Christianity did not have a place for me at their table. That was a critical crisis of thought, and I realized that I needed to look for answers elsewhere. A reactionary crisis is when something is thrust upon us, like a natural disaster. I'm actually going to skip the letter D and go straight into E with my ABCs of paganism terms and bring up evil. Yes, evil. Talking about crisis, whenever we bring in the subject of evil, there are two different kinds of evil. There is a natural, or not a natural, but a moral evil, and then there is natural evil. And so whenever we have a crisis that is based off of this natural evil, like a hurricane, a tornado, a volcano, an earthquake, gotta bring in those four elements somehow, right? We experience a cognitive dissonance in that there is suddenly misfortune thrust upon us, and we don't know why, and we ask that question, why me? This is demanding that the universe explain why evil is rampant in our world. And so thus we enter into the letter D, doubt. If you remember from the letter B video of belief, doubt is another propositional attitude, in that we can say that a subject has a propositional attitude like believes or doubts, and then a proposition like God exists or that something will happen. that X is the case. Doubt, however, it's not necessarily the antithesis of belief. It's what arises when our beliefs are incongruent with the way that the world has played out around us. So taking all three of these terms together, crisis, doubt, and evil, we need to turn our attention back to contemporary paganism and how it responds to all of these things. We have a couple of different approaches to why evil happens, but we never respond to evil until there is a crisis, and so we ask why this crisis happened, and when we ask why, we begin to explore the territory of doubt. So in other contemporary religions, evil can be considered from a mythological perspective, in that I'm drawing off of Richard Kearney. I reviewed his book, Strangers, Gods, and Monsters. I'll link it down below. But just from what I remember, the mythological account posits that evil is just kind of part of the package of existence. It's just there from the beginning. It's incidentally part of the world, and there's not really a lot that we can do with it. The next step in understanding evil and why is the scriptural approach, and that we understand evil as something that befalls us, as in a natural evil, and something that can be committed as in a moral evil. So it asks the question why, but also why me? After that, it gets into the metaphysical realm of evil, and beyond that, the anthropological realm of evil, and I'm really drawing a blank on how that plays out in terms of asking the question of why me? Why does evil persist in the world? Why my beloved child does this happen to? But the thing is, with other religions, you have the scapegoat, you have the monster, you have the outsider to say, this is why evil happened. Here it is. Here is the reason why evil persists in the world, because of somebody else. In contemporary paganism, we have to assume that responsibility ourselves, because we are saying we can choose which deity to worship, but also in contemporary paganism, every deity is open for worship, including the ones that would typically not have been worshipped in ancient times, or if they were worshipped in ancient times, they were viewed as a very minute secular cult. But now we have like death god cults, and we have we respect and honor anybody who says, oh, I worship this god that is kind of creepy, that is kind of spooky, and would typically be frowned upon. Like the trickster archetype of deity has sort of had this renaissance, whereas before, the trickster was the person who caused misfortune, and what is misfortune but the watered-down version of evil? But that's a different conversation. That's not something that we're talking about here right now. If we're going to deal with evil, if we're going to respond to the question of evil within a contemporary pagan paradigm, we have to examine the trends in contemporary paganism. I'm going to posit that contemporary paganism is Gaia-centric. I know that there are some people who are Reconstructionists who are very rooted in a specific culture, but I am going to say that a lot of pagans are going to be earth-friendly. That at least in America, this eco movement is how contemporary paganism gained credulity in the 70s and the 80s, that neo-paganism adopted an eco-friendly attitude to be taken seriously by other religions. The problem that persists is natural evil. We still have hurricanes, we still have earthquakes, we still have, all of these tragic natural events. Contemporary paganism needs to be able to say, this is why bad things happen to good people who didn't do anything wrong. And I don't think that contemporary paganism can actually answer that. I feel like there's also different kind of reactions to different kinds of crises. Whenever somebody has their house flooded or blown down, or when evil is visited upon you by an outside source, be it a natural disaster or a stranger who breaks into your house and murders your family, we recognize, like, oh, this person is not morally culpable or responsible for this evil, and so we allow them to grieve and to rail against the injustices of life. But as soon as that crisis turns into a moral crisis, whenever they say, why me? Why would deity let this happen? Why would God let this happen to me, to my child, to my spouse? Immediately, we are so fast to turn around and say, well, don't question God, don't question the divine. Who are you to assume that you know better? And I feel like that's kind of where the cognitive split happens with so many people who leave Christianity, who leave this idea that God is in control and start looking for answers or a spirituality that puts them in the driver's seat, like contemporary paganism does. The problem is that contemporary paganism still insists that you are beholden to the earth, that you are a caretaker of the earth, and the earth doesn't care about you. Natural disasters happened long before mankind came and fucked up the ecosystem. Pompeii happened long before the environmental crisis started up. And if we're going to look at other animals as the natural order of things, dolphins are actually really messed up. Lions commit infanticide. Nature is rife with a lot of things that we actually typically label as evil. Evil is a human construct. Evil is something that we use to explain away the fact that misfortune has occurred, that misfortune has happened, and why me? Evil is the response to the question of why. Why, dear God? Doubt is a preserving propositional attitude. It says, like, wait a minute, how about we don't jump over this cliff? Because we're going to die if we go all the way down. Faith does not give you wings. Faith is just a thing that happens. However, continuing along this Kierkegaardian analogy, doubt is necessary for faith in that blind faith, faith without any sort of leap of faith, is not very good because you're just accepting it whole cloth. You're not exploring it. You're not committing or paying for this faith at all. Doubt is required to be leapt over for the leap of faith to occur in this Kierkegaardian sense that we must have a more authentic sense of faith. We must have a more authentic sense of belief in X, Y, or Z, this thing that we invest our faith in. So basically, doubt is necessary and important. Evil and crisis kind of go hand in hand. One permits the other. A natural disaster, a reactionary crisis can lead to a critical crisis, to an internal disaster. And I think that contemporary paganism really needs to ante it up and be like, this is how contemporary paganism responds to crisis. This is our answer to evil. This is our response to evil. And this is where doubt lies on the spectrum of contemporary paganism. This is how we allow, permit, and recognize that doubt is another human emotion, that it's another propositional attitude, but it is something that is part of the human condition that does not need to be shunned away, but actually embraced and worked with and recognized in our forward-thinking and forward-moving spirituality. I'm really enjoying the conversations that I am having whenever I discuss these topics and whenever I plan these videos. I'm really excited to continue on with the ABCs of contemporary paganism. I'm really looking forward to your comments in the comment section. Please, please, please. I learned so much from your comments. I try to respond to them. I don't always do, but I do read every single one of them. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. A like is appreciated, a subscription even more so. I hope that if you're going through a crisis, be it an existential one or a physical one, that you are met with goodness and not evil. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.